A Mexican lawyer is offered an unusual job to help a notorious cartel boss retire and transition into living as a woman, fulfilling a long-held desire. Emilia Pérez is directed by Jacques Audiard and stars Selena Gomez, Karla Sofía Gascón, and Zoe Saldaña. So Matt, what do you think of Emilia Pérez?
So Emilia Pérez is quite the unique film, I would say, that matches the genres of a comedy, a musical, and a Mexican drug cartel crime thriller all into one. And for that reason alone, you would be hard-pressed to find a film quite like it. The film follows Rita, played by Zoe Saldaña, an attorney, as you had mentioned in the opening, that is trying to work within this corrupt Mexican judicial system. And amid her frustration, she is propositioned to help a client. She doesn't know who it is. She's only going to be told once she agrees to go see this person. So after being bagged and brought to this undisclosed location, we find out the person she is being asked to help is this character named Manitas, who is played by Karla Sofía Gascón and is the head of the drug cartel. It's in this meeting that Manitas explains that they want to transition into a woman and that they need Rita's help to facilitate this whole fake death of Manitas and so that they can become Emilia Pérez. And while the premise of this film, I would say, sounds absolutely amazing, in reality, I sadly found that the sheer amount of things that the film is trying to do and be created this experience more of hollow disjointedness than meaningful harmony. For all the attention spent on all these different genres, it never quite feels like the film can figure out how to make them coexist with one another. Musical numbers that happen suddenly with little to no lead-in, abrupt shifts to random comedic moments that seem almost meant for another film entirely. And most frustratingly, in my view, the characters who show so much promise but are kept in these very surface level boxes. That being said, there are aspects of the film that I really did love. For one, the musical performances and the acting I thought were extremely energetic and impactful. Zoe Saldaña and Karla Sofía Gascón are certainly standouts in the film, but for me, sadly, I would say that the positive attributes are unfortunately outweighed by the negative ones in this film, which I'm looking forward to going into more detail about.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would like this more, because I really didn't like this. I don't know where to start with this movie. I've seen some of Jacques Audiard's other films. I haven't seen a lot of them. I remember one in particular called Deepan. It's actually the one that he won the Palme d'Or for. That film was a pretty effective little thriller, but it was so misguided in its principles. And maybe that is just like a problem he has, because that's also something that I think that this film also has an issue with. It's so overstuffed with story, with characters, with ideas, with themes. It's literally nonstop barrage of admittedly like pretty bravura filmmaking, but that's very exciting, but I think just incredibly messy and convoluted. The first hour of the movie could have been the entire plot line of the film, and it's only the starting point. There's all these strange sidesteps, especially in the second half, into a well-meaning but completely out of nowhere angle about missing persons in Mexico. And oddly, like the longer it goes on, it feels like the less the songs have to do with the actual story. It seems like they're more there for these tangential themes and critiques. There are some individual moments here that I really liked, but generally speaking, I think the main actresses are fantastic, but just not much else for me to really enjoy here. So this is maybe a minor spoiler, but the entire trailer is framed around this moment. So basically, if you've seen the trailer already, then I don't think that this is a big spoiler. After Emilia has her surgery, Rita runs into her at a dinner. And there's this stunning realization as she sees Emilia for the first time, having only seen Juan prior, and the way the lights darken around them, so it's only them speaking, and the look on both their faces during the realization. It's really a terrific scene. It's like the only scene in the movie that I found truly pulse pounding. So much so I actually wish the trailer wasn't built around it, so you could see this completely unadulterated for yourself the same way I did. But to me, the transformation and ensuing fallout from Emilia faking her own death should have been this exclusive focus of the second half of the film, because to me, that's when it's at its most vital, and that's what that scene seems to be going towards. But instead, we get that strange critique of disappearing people in Mexico that I just don't really understand. But again, we'll get to that. But I think that the main point is that scene just shows the extraordinary craft that these actors put into this film. In the theater that we saw it in, you could hear a pin drop. Like, you knew that the audience was very locked into that film and where it was going at that point.
Okay, so there's a few things I want to tap into here. First is the missing persons thing that's happening. It does seem like a little bit of a segue, but it didn't for me. And the reason being is that I think this is dealing with Emilia Pérez's previous persona as this drug cartel lord because they were responsible for so many missing persons.
Yeah, of course. It's like her guilt manifested.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the issues I have with the film because I'm really disappointed in how the roles of this film became so surface level. And the reason I'm disappointed is because I think there was an intention to make them something more than what they became. And the reason I say that is because the beginning of the film, I think, does a wonderful job of building what could be these complex characters. To start, we have Zoe Saldaña's character, Rita, and she is torn between her job and the system. She is struggling to either concede and conform or stay and fight. And I think this is a very interesting subject that sadly receives less and less attention and reflection as the film progresses. Likewise, Emilia Pérez's character is being set up as someone not only transitioning her gender, but also her role as a drug lord who is responsible for so much death and destruction to someone who actually cares about the community and is trying to help it. This too loses its weight as the film descends into this plot of this general kidnapping and gunfight at the end.
Oh, yeah.
On that note of these little flourishes that the film has visually speaking, that one where Rita recognizes Emilia in the restaurant, there's also some other wonderfully well done flourishes, I would say. One is the Selena Gomez number that ends up being like this trans anthem during the film. There's this little visual flourish of where she's jumping from the bedroom where she's dancing into this set. And I just love the way it's like she's going through a mirror and ending up on this set and scene where she's dancing with all these dancers. It was really beautifully done. I absolutely loved how that was visually showcased.
Yeah, totally. The film moves so fast and it glosses over so many issues and plot conveniences that I will admit I did find it a bit laughable as it went on, especially in like the last half hour or so. I understand that somebody could be very touched by this film. I think that there's a tremendous leap forward with representation here. There's a very good chance that Gascón will become the first trans woman ever nominated for an Oscar. And by the way, it's completely deserving. I think she's terrific in the film. As well-meaning as that representation is, it's hard for me to recommend a film that only scratches the surface of such important issues. Issues that I frankly think have had more empathetic and deeper explorations in film already, honestly. You essentially have three films here, which is the Mexican cartel thriller, one that's a social issue drama about missing persons in Mexico, and one about trans identity and leaving your prior life behind. So I will give it this, that Emilia Pérez is unlike any film you've ever seen, like you said in your intro, but it's a mess and it just really makes no sense and it doesn't do a good job of stitching itself together. I definitely think that Zoe Saldaña is the best performance here. Gascón is really good too, but I think oddly, for her being a supporting actress, Zoe Saldaña's performance is towering above the others in some ways. There's a particular way that she carries this film that I just found really extraordinary. Like the scene I was talking about before, you see her face go from jovial and entertained to this realization and almost this dead stare where she becomes very serious. It's extraordinary. Like, not to mention some of her more emotionally wrenching material at the film's conclusion. Like, she has a very wide breadth of emotions throughout and completely deserving of an Oscar nomination. Like, there are times that I was rolling my eyes at the film, but I was never ever rolling my eyes at her.
In the way it's a detriment to the other characters, it's not their fault as actors. I would say that it's the fault of the material in this case.
I agree.
And I think Zoe Saldaña is just given the most of all three of them. One in particular that I do want to mention is this musical number that she has. It's probably in the middle of the film, but she's dancing on tables with all these high profile people in government that are raising money for this new missing persons initiative. It's a wonderful number because it's pointing out the hypocrisy of people in government that are both part of the problem, also raising money to solve the problem. Her energy is absolutely insane in this number. I had no idea that she could sing like this until this film. I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't either. It's funny, as a scene individually, I really, really like that scene, but I felt like it was odd in the film that it was in. It was tangentially related to what was going on, but felt like, here's a sudden exploration of a theme for 4 minutes, and then see you later, and you won't hear about this again. So, like, say you put that scene up on YouTube, you'd be like, wow, this is amazing, if you divorce it from the context.
And that's why the musical numbers were the best part of the movie, because the musical numbers were the deepest, most intimate parts of the film. I think they did most of the explanation about themes that we needed elsewhere in the film to tie it all together.
There's a really great one Zoe Saldaña has where she's walking through the medical center, and they're basically giving her all these different prices and ideas about gender reassignment surgery, and that was, like, amazing.
It's brilliant.
I went into Emilia Pérez thinking, like, some of the things I had heard about it that it wouldn't be for me, and that happened, I think, in the first 40 minutes, and I'm like, no, I really like this. This is really good. That was my favorite musical number in the film. And I think that was a way to propel the plot forward while also entertaining us with a really cool number.
Yeah, and also breaking down all these stereotypes surrounding transitioning.
Yeah, it was like educational and like interesting and was important to the plot. It was everything at once.
Yeah, and same with her initial music number where she's dealing with this being torn between her job and duty and morality and all these different things. It's all there. It's actually really frustrating as we're talking about it because the music numbers are really so good and they have everything that I need in this film. I just needed it to seep into the other aspects of the film.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I was just kind of saying, I could see myself revisiting the numbers on YouTube on their own, but I don't want to watch the film again, to be honest. So it's funny, the film blows through so many ideas and it keeps up such a vigorous pace, which I think is mostly to its detriment, but it doesn't stop to develop anything. There was a point where I needed to go to the bathroom and Emilia had just started talking to a woman that had visited the nonprofit. And you could tell from the vibes that it may turn romantic, right? So anyway, I literally run to the bathroom because I didn't want to miss anything. I must have been gone 90 seconds. I literally ran there and ran back. And by the time I came back, they were already sleeping with each other. I'm like, what is going on in this movie? This film is just like burning story, like and without deepening any of the issues. There's some strong character assassination, I think, towards the end, especially with Emilia Pérez that I didn't really like. I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but Selena Gomez's character begins a relationship with someone late in the film, and Emilia becomes territorial and rageful in response to that. And that development felt really sudden and unfortunate to me, and it felt like a complete resurgence of her past as a cartel leader. And maybe that was the intent, but I think it made the pivotal mistake of being unclear instead of ambiguous. Like, ambiguous is good, but unclear is not. I'm a big fan and even an active proponent of complex characterizations, like contradictions within characterizations. But this felt more like a plot convenience, like a sudden way to heighten the stakes and the tension of the film, rather than something that was true to the character.
So are you ready to go to grades?
Yes, I'm going to give Emilia Pérez a C-. I feel kind of bad about that because I do think the actors are really great. It's going to be weird if Zoe Saldaña wins an Oscar that I'm going to be cheering for her in a movie that I really didn't like. I think that there's so much wonderful staging here. I think that there is a massive amount of ambition. I think there's a massive amount of good intentions. I care deeply about film as an art form, as a way to explore ideas and deepen ideas. And I think that for all of the things that this film does do right, like with some of the staging and the musical numbers and the acting and a variety of other things, I just don't think it gets that fundamental right. And that's a cardinal sin in my mind. So that's why I gave it a C-.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I give the film a B-. I think just those positive attributes weighed a little bit heavier in my mind. I think it just tonally ping-ponged in just so many different directions. But just reiterating what I had said before, the music elements I thought were absolutely fantastic. One thing we didn't really talk about was the set design in the film. And the set design is absolutely brilliant. And we could attribute that to all the musical numbers.
And the choreography too.
And the choreography. Also, the lighting needs a complete shout out in this film because the way they use lightings for that sequences, like during that dinner sequence, during the Selena Gomez musical number, they're using all these lighting techniques of like fading in and fading out lights and things like that. And I just thought it was really effective. Other than that, I just feel like I just wanted more. I wanted more connection between these musical numbers thematically to the story itself.
So that's it for a review of Emilia Pérez, which is coming out on November 1st in theaters and will be on Netflix on November 13th. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you think, and we will see you next time.